First time I came in, I'm normally
Since he's here.
holy smoke, I had to take off the lane 2 times and that's without running out of the rear view trim. Crazy.
That was one of those things.
Because they, all of us want 50, coming in next to, but I'm super curious. Those viewers over there, holy smokes, from chuckling at me. No. Really? They would use all 10,000?
That's a special.
Yeah. We made the recommendation to do that. Just a question for Tom. The Bear Project at the town board. What's that? Sorry, Tom. Yeah. But they haven't. No. They did give them a.
What they do, they okayed the pilot program, or was it host community? One of them, they.
One of them too, they didn't approve the whole project.
Yeah, the other one wasn't quite ready. I do.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You can call the one, make that 6:33. Can you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Tom?
Here.
Wes?
Here.
John?
Here.
Jean? Here. Kurt?
Here.
Steve is excused. George?
Here.
And then Eric?
And then Eric, you're here for a different agenda tonight, a different purpose, so
For a conversation.
George would be the acting. I wasn't here at the last meeting. But the minutes, everybody gets the minutes. I was just curious, the questions in new business that are outlined here, pretty much the ones that Shelley had, correct?
Yes.
motion and second for the meeting minutes.
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as are.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Okay. Old business, there was, pretty extensive discussion last meeting about the general business district that are in the meeting, it's all outlined in the meeting minutes. And the consensus of the group was to look at other towns and concentrate on water septic, each on their own lot or shared parking. Therefore, the issue's tabled for now. But does anybody have any comments on that related to the last meeting?
We were gonna look at other towns to see if they had, how their zoning was for doing, businesses grouped onto a property. And I don't have anything.
Anybody else got anything? Other towns?
I'm sorry, I didn't look, so I don't have anything.
Other towns in the county. correct?
Other towns in the county, yeah.
I could reach out to Jim, Benson and ask him if there's any other significant differences. But what other, does anybody have any suggestions on other towns that would be similar in character to ours that might have, the same idea we do? About this type of thing? I mean, Kendall, Carlton, and Yates all have Lake Shore, so they might be a little different. Clarendon doesn't have much of a village as we do. Clarendon's similar to us.
Right.
In that regard.
And the other villages have septic, or have sewers, not, we don't
Yeah,
have
I mean-
to deal with septics.
Shelby's got Medina. Albion's got Albion, of course, and then Murray's and the Hotland, so. Clarendon seems like one of the most appropriate. Can you get us the general business zoning for Clarendon for the next meeting? Or send everybody some address?
So are we looking like Clarendon, what's it called now, not the Flips or Twins or whatever it was? If they took that building, they have, they have the restaurant, the store, and they have the gas station. If they put something out and maybe had a gun shop, making businesses, is that what you're looking at, is how they would tax them or how they would use that as a business?
Well,
Would each one have to be separate?
yeah, if you could have multiple businesses on the same parcel in the town of Clarendon, I don't know whether that's possible or not. I can't think of an example.
Weren't they actually gonna do that market? Twins, when the vans were gonna open it and they were gonna work on cars and part of it and that was,
They are.
They are.
so is it one business or is that two businesses?
I don't know how they broke it down. It's
Where-
one
where's
business
that?
owned by,
Right there at the gas station on the corner.
Oh, on the one on the north side?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cars, you go around back are in the south, is where he works on them. I say south, it's.
Big.
And they cut the store in half upstairs so that they could put a car on the left, and I think he's got 2 lifts in there,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah. Where, do you know?
Yeah, I mean, I reached out to Shelley and was just kind of trying to figure out what I could and couldn't do and what would be involved with some of the ideas that, we were tossing around. That is what I think spurred most of those questions at the last meeting. Some are accurate questions, some wouldn't understand at all what I was discussing with her. So I don't know if you guys want to just kind of share what we were thinking or and let that kind of lead the conversation or.
Yeah, I was just trying to get it handled because I wasn't here last meeting to try to figure out, what the meeting minutes kind of revealed, but from the meeting minutes, it identifies that we should look at other towns and see how they handle this, so. I mean, Clarendon is a town similar to ours, maybe we should look at another town in the county like Shelby, who we know has, this scenario for, like Tops, where Tops is, that's got multiple businesses on the same parcel.
Well, let's know what we're looking for first. And Shelley, he wasn't here, Shelley told us.
Yeah.
Why don't you explain exactly what you wanted?
She was a little vague, I'm not sure it was
Yeah.
exactly what you had in mind.
That's what I'm hearing. So
Yeah, well,
basically,
this is a new business, we'll get into the new business.
New business? Yeah.
All right.
I got 6 copies, so
I'll share it with Wes.
You got one more?
I got one,
I can make copies of these.
why don't you make a couple copies so everybody reads them? Yeah, that's always good. So, what my question was to Shelley was, first, kind of general business, can I have multiple businesses on the same property was my first question. She was unsure of the answer to that. So then, when I looked into.
We probably have wait.
Okay, all right.
Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. So one of them shows, the one that shows the whole survey that's kind of split up into potential subdivisions. I think we'll start us with that page.
okay,
Okay.
I say.
Hey, while we're waiting, what's the price of concrete doing?
Concrete's probably been the most steady thing all year.
I didn't realize it was all the way.
4,000 grade, what's Psycho Park you getting for that?
Main retail's like 143 a yard with fiber for 4,000 fine for. Yeah. You can get, that's tax too. So take $12, $13 out of that for tax. I know you don't. I have a farm status. Oh, that's been the most consistent thing.
Lumber prices are coming back down a little
We're
bit.
75% of what we were on April 1st, so it's a lot better than what it was, but April 1st was about 72% higher than year 20 or 19.
Yeah.
So, So originally what I had proposed to, Shelley as a thought is, could I build a multi-use building? So picture one or two buildings split into multiple businesses for lease. So we would still retain ownership of the building and the land, so lease out, basically lease out space for a long-term lease. That was my first thought. Then looking into it more, I thought maybe a subdivision would be a better way to approach it. And that's where I'm at now. I think it would be more of I want to get it subdivided into 3 or 4 lots, depending on what you guys allow for a major or minor subdivision. I'd really like to remain in the minor subdivision to stay away from all the state stuff that I would have to do if I did a major subdivision. I don't even know if those are defined definitions. But for my research, major, minor, the cutoffs between 3 or 4 parcels. That's kind of the cutoff between a major, minor, and that depends on the township. So if it's a 3 parcel, this is kind of what we'd like to do. Where my shopping office currently is, that would stay the same. Keep 300 feet. Ben and I would like to put storage units on the parcel next to it, and then leave the next lot open for either a home or just residential, and keep it accessible without creating a flag lot or a landlocked piece of land. If I could do 4 subdivisions, that was my original drawing, but again, kind of relying on you guys for the lead on that. But I can't do what we do well.
So your first thought would be to retain ownership of the whole thing?
There would be one entity that owned all the parcels. It would just be separate tax identities. Is where I'm at.
The advantage of that is that you'd be able to sell it.
Correct. It's more or less down the road.
Yeah, you wouldn't
Right.
be able to sell it.
Yeah. So that's why we're back at this. So again, one owner on all parcels, but they're individual parcels at that point for development.
Well, this storage, that's not what Shelley told us last month.
Yeah.
Said you want to put in a mini mall,
No,
strip mall,
it was not a mini mall. That was,
a plaza, how's that?
yeah.
I think she was probably trying to be vague.
Yeah.
What was going on?
She was pretty.
Oh, well,
She was pretty good at being vague.
yeah. So that was never your intention?
No.
Okay, it's been the storage.
The one thing with the 4, this does not reflect the 4 parcel subdivision. My original thought was to keep where my office is, leave 1 lot where I could do a similar building as my office to complement that and create sort of it's still 2 parcels, 2 separate tax, but to create kind of a mini business looking thing, and then do the storage units next to that, and still leave a piece of land that's not landlocked or a flag lot, so it can still be developed. Someone can build a home, they can use it for hunting, but I didn't create a hardship on myself or the town for the parcel to do it.
But we brought up a good question, is if we look to the future, Eric could just as easily build a nice building that he does and rent out space for businesses that could all be in the same building.
Right.
I mean, that would be, it could be lawyer offices, it could be, dentist office, it could be, and then just rent that space out.
Was that what you had talked with Shelley about originally?
It's one of the options. That's why I'm trying to create to see how many parcels I can create, so potentially I could do that if the demand's there. Because there's been some interest from people, they can't get financing, or they just don't want the burden of owning, it's a lot of work to, I mean, you guys know, you go
Just
through it all
don't
next
use it.
month. Yeah, so, you know, there's a potential there that could complement the building that's already there and then develop, you know, some, just more interest in the town.
Do they have something similar like that up in Pembroke? Where the doctor's offices were, or wasn't that like a little office complex? Up in Quickie.
Like on, 33 going west out of town, south side there.
I know there was a doctor's office in the church, there was, kids' doctor was there for a while. You went in and it was like different offices down throughout the building.
The zoning, this is definitely in the general business district.
Yeah, I found, as far as storage, it is in the zoning of general businesses.
Is it?
Number 19,
19,
commercial
yeah.
storage buildings providing space for rent.
So we do have, in the general business district, we do have that.
Correct. It's conforming to that.
And then the
Either, so whether I did a building like that or commercial, or storage units, they both would fit that rent, right? In that zoning, the definition, storage for rent, or
commercial storage buildings providing space for rent. Yeah.
so it's, I mean, it seems flexible for the whole picture of that piece of land that I have, you know, both pieces fit that zoning. You know, the big question is, you know, subdivision. I don't know what you guys want or need for that, what I can do or can't do for a major minor subdivision.
Is there any, I mean, we have some other requirements too, that, they call it buffer strip. And then,
Where is that requirement for,
says buffer strip, commercial structure shall provide a natural buffer strip to be perpetually maintained so that to provide a visual screen.
Yeah.
And separation between commercial and residential use.
So we did, in the park that we cleared, there are some trees up there. I mean, there's adequate space that we left for green space if you guys requested something more than what we left. We did leave alternative maple trees in the front. There's a buffer between the two buildings, my building and that property, and also there's still 500 feet of woods between the closest neighbor.
Do you think you'd be within, you plan on, meeting the setback requirements that are in here too, right?
Yes, yeah, and that, they're all laid out in that second page of sent you, requesting storage units.
Yep.
That's all there, based on the zoning that was in the.
Yeah, they got.
The zoning online is,
75 feet from.
it's actually a little more, I think, on the
15
state
on the
road.
side, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm 115 to the front of the building, which gave us about 7 or 8 foot leniency in case something wasn't right with state right away. I think when I did my building, it was 33 feet they wanted to edge roadway for that road when they told the state.
And then, they got, 35 feet, you're not higher than that, right?
No.
And then, minimum lot size 40,000, you're obviously
Yeah.
bigger than that. Maximum building coverage 35%.
And I'm nowhere near that.
Yeah.
I'm
Now, are you-
around 17.
Yeah, would that be 30, those numbers would be related just to the one that you have shown with 400 feet in frontage, right?
The storage unit one?
Yeah.
Yes. And that would be building phases. 2 buildings would be phase 1, 2 buildings would be phase 2. Working from east to west. So again, just as developing in front of that property, just trying to keep it all kind of harmonious.
So the intent would be to build the storage units on a lot that's roughly 400 by whatever the depth is,
I think it's 400 deep.
so that it met the requirements for that lot, even though you're gonna retain ownership of the whole thing.
Yes, I retain ownership of the whole thing, but it'd still be different tax identity. It'd be its own parcel. So it'd be, basically I'd be leasing to myself and them.
I can think of a similar Bentley down there. Dave has the storage. I think when I was on the county planning board, you were there. I think they got divided up at that time into two different. Dave owns the storages, and then Bentley Brothers or Laura or whoever owns the store.
So it's two separate parcels.
I think, if I remember correctly,
But I guess what I was getting at is if this was subdivided like you're suggesting, and if it was or wasn't subdivided, but into 4 separate parcels.
Yeah.
Down the road, 10 years, you want to sell it, it's still gonna meet our zoning
Correct.
in a separate lot, right?
Correct. And then that's what, again, the thought behind this is like, one, I don't wanna create a hardship on myself down the road to sell it. Two, I don't wanna create a hardship on the town to have to sort through a mess, so.
Yeah.
You know what you did, cause it's all conforming, so,
Yeah.
unless obviously the zoning changes, I can't, but the current zoning, it would conform either way.
this is, storage gonna require water, electric? No.
Just electric, no water, no sewer.
So would that have its own service then? You'd have to have its own service?
Yeah, it has its own push service. Again, I technically could draw power from our shop, I have enough there. So those are some of the questions that I think you guys
Yeah.
should have, is that okay? Obviously if and when we sell it, that wouldn't work, so.
Yeah. Just a thought on your third parcel, down there to the west.
Yep.
If that requires water, which I'm assuming it would, could that be brought from yours?
No,
It would have to be another board through.
each parcel, what I would propose, it's more of a board member, but I would propose each lot, if and when it is needed to have its own service. I would love to just be able to service the whole property until I wanted to sell it, and just, I could negotiate that out at the end when I sell it, that, I put water and power to the lot if it's negotiated, or they pay for it.
Where's the meter on your property?
Which meter, water,
The water,
on my building.
it's on your building.
Yes. If we put a meter pit in out front, again, this would have to be a discussion with the highway superintendent, which we've done in other towns, is, anything after that meter.
Yeah.
Is private, so.
Well, my thoughts just were, it was quite expensive to pour under that road, right?
Yep, 10,000,
What size line is it?
2.
2-inch,
It's
it's a 2-inch line.
A lot.
If they could tee off, and just go from east to west on your
Right.
side of the road.
That was some of the discussion when we did the bore was, could I do that? Cause again, it was very expensive to bore once.
Yeah.
So part of the conversation with Vail is, can I put a 4-inch and then run like a sub-service to service those other lots, and I parcel them off, just drop the meter in front of each lot, which would be the easiest. instead of drilling 4 times, and I still would propose to re-drill where my line is already. Cause I can, 2 inch was the biggest I could go with the bore head that Kevin priced me. That's why I was at a 2 inch. 4 inch started going up significantly, you know,
Good.
25,000.
It seems to me a 2-inch line would handle an awful lot of,
You could have an engineer, I mean, we've done 2 inch lines for multiple homes, 500 feet off the road.
yeah.
It's a fair amount of water. I mean, even to spray sheds, we've done 2 inch water lines and I have.
It's getting ahead of ourselves on the whole thing,
Yeah.
but has this happened anywhere else in Berry, I wonder? Where they, teed off on one side of the road to multiple houses or businesses or something?
How's Rice Homes?
Yeah, I don't know how they are doing it.
Water means on the west side of the road there, isn't it?
Yeah, the line is on the west side.
So whatever they have comes underneath the gate.
I think that's kind of down the road. It'd be
Oh,
a great
yes.
thing to look at and know about.
But backing up a little bit, would that storage be better off on the west side in case you were gonna do another strip mall in between?
It's pushed far enough down where I still can fit a 300-foot building.
On your lot?
No, if I could do 4 lots, I would leave enough
Oh, you
space.
did
to put
4
up-
lots.
We worked on them up in Green Island, they did, I mean, that was huge, that was 3 buildings, but it was 3 businesses in each building, they're 150 feet, 50-foot buildings by 60 or 80 foot deep, and then it was basically, you know, like a facade, or built out of a pole structure. So you can change tenants very easily, it was cheap, cost of ownership was low, just a nice alternative to generate some business without pulling out some capital.
How many storage units is, it's pretty small, then? You can't read it.
Proposed is 236, I think, at the top. And then chart is 248. That would be total build out. So my top rate part. 236. 238.
You got enough room in the back, though, just reading through the requirements, it said maximum building coverage 35%. And you're probably, with what you got, just a diagram roughly, you're probably pushing right around 45. The still storage units, but you can go further back in the woods and.
Yeah, I would move the line. So it's
35%.
32, the buildings are 32,700 square feet on total build out.
You're 400 by what?
400 by 400.
So, about 160,000?
60,000.
So that's already doing that.
So it should be underneath that.
Yeah.
It will be. And total build out.
The woods in Albion,
The line split, so the way I have the line drawn, and to keep things simple, everything developed is in front except the lot that goes out to the back.
Yeah.
So,
but the back half is in Albion.
yes, on the survey, 8.44 acres in the town of Albion, and the rest is, on the survey, you can see that dash line,
Yeah,
it says approximate. Line. I get 1 tax bill, I actually, all the taxes, I'm taxing Berry, they negotiate that out at the.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, to keep it simple, so you guys, the town gets the whole thing.
oh, wow. I wonder how they did that.
Well, no one knew what to do, that was honestly half the problem. they just kept saying, well, we don't know what to do. I go, well, I can't close until you guys sign off the tax me. So
Yeah.
someone must have just said, you know, dude,
Well, they got
go
other
to Barry, I mean.
You got other parcels with the same issue, right?
Yeah, so, I don't know what was negotiated out, but, yeah, it's one tax bill to Concord. But even if down the road, again, the lot line is still on Barry to, not create a legal hardship.
Yeah, that L-shaped lot that you're gonna create is gonna have portion of both towns.
Correct, but if they continue with the way they've been treating me, from a taxation, I mean, it should still be Barry, unless it's,
Unless you put, $500,000 house back there.
that's way too close to work for me.
Some of the other things in all the districts that we have are the, off-street parking, but I don't know how that would apply to a storage unit. You have to have a place for each person to park that has a storage unit?
Well, the parking is part of the drive, I mean, it's factored into the driveway. We're working with a company called Tracty. I can send someone a link to it, I'm sure, with the town. They've really been helping us direct as far as the development of it. They have a ton of good data on everything. I mean, all they do is store units nationally. As far as parking access, fire access, they've laid out all the laneways to make sure all that stuff's thought about. If there's an issue, yeah, drainage.
So what we're really looking at is the storage unit here tonight. Is that right?
I think, if I was asking the question, would be, what can I do from a subdivision standpoint, 3 or 4 lots? And what would be required of me to get that done? And also, just to make sure that our proposal for storage units is in fact meeting the zoning in the general business, so we don't have to go through a special. Yeah, that's the way we interpret it, but we obviously want to make sure that you guys don't see any issues, or if you do have any questions, you can get them.
We had this subdivision issue when we went, or when they did, up on, Gillette Road. Remember that one?
Yeah.
That was, for the tricky,
The Catholic Church.
but I can't remember how it was panned out.
Took a long time.
Was that not business district though?
No, it was not business district.
So, I don't know if that plays it.
Well, special use permit.
Right.
Which this would be, you guys correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this would have special use permit also, right? Cause under general business, uses requiring a special use permit.
You have a special use permit for your business now.
It's foregone because I'm zoned properly. We are now conforming.
Okay.
To the general
Before it
business
was
district.
ag res,
Yeah,
now it's general business, so now we're conforming.
okay.
So I'm wrong about that then. So the number 7 or number 19 you're referring to is
Correct.
permitted use.
Correct, there's no.
Yep.
Correct.
Well, if you're gonna go to 4 lots, then this isn't correct right now.
I have another one.
Well, what would your lot size be if you had four different parcels?
I think from his point of view, the
question he's asking us is what he can and can't do. What are the minimum lot sizes? How many can you do? That's really, what, if I was in his place, that's all he wants to know. How it should be,
How can
why
you-
would you wanna know?
Okay, but he must have thought about what his lot size would be if he's gonna have 4 different lots.
I have,
That's what I'm asking.
I know,
it would be 200, 200, 300, 200.
because to answer your question, a lot size in this town needs 200 feet road frontage.
Correct. That's
You
why it would
probably
be
see
2, 2, 3, 2.
How many, I don't know if we have anything in our zoning that says how many can you put in there? Because I remember when Norm Phillips wanted to divide this 13 acres into 13 lots, because you had to have an acre in each lot,
Yeah.
but you couldn't make them all 200 by 200. So he was looking for a variance.
So was that the restricting factor on that decision, was the frontage? Not the quantity of lots, but
He couldn't get, he wanted 13, because he had 13 acres.
Right.
He couldn't do it,
because of the lot frontage.
geometry wouldn't allow it to happen.
So if the question was, can I do 10 on my 13 acres and they all had 200 frontage, it would have been fine.
If you put a cul-de-sac like he was doing up to it,
Right.
and you got 200 along the cul-de-sac,
Okay.
stuff like that. So, not to step on his toes, that's what he wants to know,
Yeah.
right? And then, no one's been saying it, you know, I mean, I don't think it's changed since the day Norm Phillips was trying to do that with that lot there. It's 200 by 200, 1 acre. And I don't think it's whatever you can do to make that, to stay in those parameters. Does that make sense? Or
Yeah.
disagree with me if I'm saying something?
No, I think you're right. I think it's identified here underneath, the specifications and the setback requirements and the minimum lot size. Cause they got 40,000 square feet minimum lot size, and 200 foot is the 32 by 2, right?
Mhm.
You just gotta be aware that you can't have any, if you're gonna make them 200 by 200, they can't have more than 35% building coverage.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Then you gotta comply with, if they're gonna be that small, you gotta comply with the setbacks,
Setbacks,
which are identified.
which again is, it has been thought through in the lot size. I really, you know, that same thing, just what can I do? You know, as long as I'm conforming, can I do 4 lots? And what else you would want to see from me as far as.
How many acres have you got there?
It's 21.7.
But it says here in 350.26, the minimum area required for a planned development shall be 20 contiguous acres of land. However, the applicant can demonstrate the characteristics of the property proposed for such use can meet the objectives of this section. Projects with less acres will be considered.
Right.
So you got 21.
Yeah, 21, but I don't know if this would be considered development because it's individual parcels. It's not a development on one parcel, correct?
This is a planned development,
Yeah,
This
just
is
whatever that is.
planned development.
That though, George, is that's section 350.26 is a planned industrial commercial development. We only have that on the corner of 31A and 98,
Oh, okay, all right,
that district.
that's not, okay.
Or 20.82 is there.
So you only got one road. So you need to 1,100 feet.
Correct. Yeah.
Unless you put a road in.
Unless we put it.
Norman Phillips learned the hard way that nobody wanted to live like that in Berry Center.
Yeah.
You know, so much else. The rest of the land got digged up for people to live there.
I realize that 350.26 is not part of that down here, but if you read we do have wording in here for that. If you look at under C, sorry, I can't talk right here, number 4 and number 5, it does talk about that. Is common property shall be defined as a parcel of land together with improvements, the use and enjoyment of which is shared by the owners and occupants of the planned development. Individual buildings within a planned development shall be related to each other in design, mass, materials, placement, and connections. So I understand it's not the same, right, but it is in here giving that part of it with some general guidance.
Well, that kind of goes against our logic in a way, because you're in the general business district, which we have a bunch of uses that are allowed in there. But if what you're saying is that in the planned development district, that's the district that really is intended for separating lots. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's saying, that's not how I read it. Maybe I'm not understanding it.
And you're saying if that's the only area that they can do planned industrial or commercial development,
Which is what?
what's the difference between commercial development and our business district?
I mean, by definition, in a lot of places, is a big difference between what is considered industrial and general business.
Right, but we got it lumped, industrial and commercial development / in this.
So that's its own, is that its own zoning classification?
Yeah, planned industrial commercial development.
But we're not in, that's not a.
No, I know, you're not in that, but I'm saying we have wording for that part of it, which is kind of what you want to be doing in your part of it. It's just a matter of, because we don't have anything in the book saying what we want to do.
How do you say the business district though isn't commercial development? Now, our general business, I don't know. Or each business has to be individual.
But that's what is planned. I mean, that's what I'm proposing. I'm not proposing one giant lot with 5 different businesses. I'm proposing 3 or 4 lots with 3 or 4 businesses. I mean, no different than 4 parcels stacked next to each other that 4 different people own.
Right.
It's still own tax identity.
That's the most important part. Because there was some notion that this was all in one lot.
No.
Or attached is how we were told, they're going to be attached
But that's not,
buildings.
yeah, that's not,
Yeah, that's what we were.
yeah, I agree.
Okay.
So the plan, again, the plan development says that a minimum, like you said, 20 acres, contiguous acres. That was for a planned development, but if you're gonna split them all up into separate lots, you could be in compliance in the general business district.
Correct.
There's only restrictions is 200 by 200 1 acre.
Right. That's the way I see it, yeah.
35% of building coverage.
But if you wanted to have them all be, if you wanted to have multiple structure plan development on 20 acres, that would require the plan development, I think, or planned industrial commercial development district.
Right.
Which we only have that on the corner of 31. So that probably gets you to the point that you get a subdivider, right?
Right. And what with that, what do you guys require for something, I mean, or anything you guys require from me, or just get it surveyed and?
Gotta look into that one.
We don't have people who use. But you see me, you got 1,100 feet long road there, you can do 5, you make 5 little slivers all the way back.
But depending on what he puts in there, that his setback might not work.
Yeah, restriction, building size, of course, setbacks. I don't know if you put your storage on 200 feet frontage, unless you get all one long.
Gets close, cause it gets close from the, since you start getting into the driveway width and, you know, a lot of that's planned from a safety perspective, of getting the fire department down there, or, you know, that's kind of designed into that 400 frontage. 300 would work, that's close,
But remember,
it still would work.
you're trying to make this sellable, so you squeeze it in there, it's not gonna help you.
Right, because what I think now is only 20 years from now, I want to do something else with it, and I wanna be able to offer that as a, that's something else to turn to sit in front of you guys and ask them.
There'll be smarter people here in 20 years.
Yeah, for sure.
And I really wanted to have a conversation about the subdivision. If I'm hearing correctly, we can subdivide as long as I meet the minimum requirements set forth in the current zoning.
That's the way I see it. I don't,
I wouldn't recommend it, but that's the minimum.
Right. And then, you know, with proposing a storage unit, is that I mean.
permitted use in the general business district.
Yeah, okay, that was.
That's the way I see it, right?
So, building permit, obviously once subdivision is approved and all that.
What was that?
Once the subdivision is done and approved by you guys, the building permit would get me what I needed to, what we needed to just get going.
I was just trying to find something in here about subdivision. So I thought we had something about subdivision.
Yeah, I see, don't see anything.
I couldn't even.
That's what was our,
Did you do the search on that?
there,
You happen to know what the process is for subdividing? Does it go, didn't necessarily go before?
That's what we're trying to find out, John.
Yeah.
We don't know.
From the council that I've seeked outside of this town, from what the homework that I did, normally it's just an approval, one of the plan, make sure it's, you know, your comprehensive plan. You know,
Right.
the zoning's properly, what I want to use the property for is what you guys have set forth and,
it seems like when we did this before, when we went into terminology was subdivision in other towns means homes. You're gonna subdivide a large parcel into sale for individual lots for houses.
right.
You're dividing the property. You're
Correct.
not subdividing. You're not.
Correct. Right.
Yeah,
Yes, I mean,
it's semantics. But when you start asking the question about subdivisions, that's what.
people get the notion that they're making housing development.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You just want to cut the property up.
Correct.
Would county planning board have any say in this, him subdividing this?
The only reason we send things to, well, I don't know that.
Yeah, it's a state road.
Like, when they did this with the church here in the swamp there, that got subdivided, I mean, they came in and divided it, how did it, you just go to, I don't remember what the procedure was.
What are you talking, what church?
Trippy. That's out in the middle of
They
area.
just subdivided it.
They had nothing to do with the county.
I know, but
Yeah.
the process of subdividing, what was,
Basically just redrawing the line.
The problem with that one was there wasn't any road frontage on the second part, so we had to make a little spot so they had enough
Yeah.
road frontage. I think that was the
otherwise
only
it
issue
could be
with that one.
landlocked.
They wanted the woods separate from the building.
We had to abandon the road. When we abandoned the road, then they didn't have the road front.
frontage.
Right.
Yeah, a little bit deal about that.
Oh,
There's all kinds. So that doesn't really, still.
But just
I don't
because
know,
it's,
how did they actually do the subdividing?
but just because it's in general business district, does that make any difference of how you do it? I mean, a homeowner, they just sell off a section of the neighboring piece to another homeowner, and there's no, it doesn't have to come to,
I don't think they go before the planning board, they can have that.
no,
I think so. 'Cause that's how we end up with flag lots.
yeah.
You're out of the ag zone now, right?
Yes.
That's how you got through that.
Yep. So it's just a matter of getting the survey done and
But it's gotta be done, it's gotta be registered or.
through the county.
Yeah.
Through the county, yeah.
Yeah.
But I haven't surveyed it yet. I haven't registered for separate tax identities, but then you guys would have 3 or 4 taxes. It'll be four taxable parcels instead of.
Get to vary somehow.
Yeah, through the county too.
It'll be worth a lot more, I'm sure.
Excuse me?
The tax will be worth a lot.
Your assessor.
Probably pay more altogether.
Yeah, typically, yeah. Yep.
Makes a lot more reasonable than mini mall.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell she had to come up with that for.
What?
Oh, mini mall.
Oh, yeah, what is that?
Yeah, why? Just, you must have scared her or something.
There's, I was just looking to see if there's anything about our duties in here. I'm pretty sure it's,
There is,
see that?
all our duties are in there, yeah.
But I mean, it's in 357.
That's right. We can talk about having a way for the county to tell us whether that happens, so that we end up cutting up lots that made it
Non-compliant.
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 Whatever that.
I don't think we ever went through with that. We talked about it.
Yeah, we never finished, yeah.
That was communism or something.
Well, that was a big discussion with the craft center, the church, the old,
Mhm. Green.
The Grange,
Grange, yeah,
that by right should have never happened.
it's being
The
used.
county, yeah, exactly,
The church cut that up
That shouldn't have happened.
yeah.
without us knowing.
So is that how we got to that? Because we were talking about having subdivision zoning, and we don't have that,
Right.
right?
Yep.
So the town, or the church had a big parcel, and they split it without us knowing it. They sold the house off separate, and it made the adjacent structure non-conforming, because it didn't have the right setback, right?
Yeah, they ran the line up on the south side of the church.
So, yeah, and again, that, in my homework, my dad, being a real estate broker, he goes, do not create a hardship on yourself or the town, because that, it puts everyone in a predicament. I mean, you guys
Yeah.
have experienced
That's
it,
that's what happened.
it gets tricky, and that's why we would just wanna have this conversation with you guys to make sure we weren't missing anything that, you guys saw.
Mm-hmm.
The county did give their blessing on that, so.
They did, because it had to be, well, they had to have a special use permit, so it had to go to the town.
Yeah.
That was the reason.
Right.
I don't really think, you'd have to go to the county, because it's
not a
an
special
allowed
use.
use, it's an allowed use without a special use permit.
The only part you should have to go to county with is the sale of splitting the lot up.
Yeah, to the clerk.
The clerk, yeah, not to planning, not to county planning. That just goes through the county clerk.
I mean, and we read about that, it's a permitted use in the district, and it's,
Well, you were gonna get a hold of Ben, so I asked him.
Well, it's good that you came to talk, because it sounds like you could have just went and divided this up without even telling us.
There's,
Yeah.
As long as you stay within the 200 or 200.
Guys, do they bring anything, from these other towns that have a business district? Do they bring anything like this? Do you remember anything like that?
I don't,
for who?
other town.
the same, similar
Right.
deal.
Unless we put a strip on
Probably right, it shouldn't be in a business district, it shouldn't have to go.
it.
Looking for a special, a variance or something.
I don't remember.
Well, you might run into more issues if you do a building and rent out offices.
Were they divided
all on one parcel? That one might be
Almost,
sticky.
but on the other hand, it seems like it's on state road, they'd have to give them this.
By the way, Shelley.
You know, it does seem.
Only if there's a
I think she
usage
was
out of the.
doing multiple buildings.
As far as splitting it off, he should be
Which
able to
does
do that without the county, but.
Yeah, that,
Well,
for sure, that's what she didn't think I wanted to cut it up at all. She's like, all those buildings are gonna be on.
For that zone.
You don't
Oh,
have to ask
did-
for a special use permit.
Didn't he have to go originally, get approval from the county to build originally?
Well, that's, originally he did because it wasn't a business district,
Okay,
but now, the way our zoning, I would say, no, he doesn't have to. But, who am I? It warrants asking, that's,
it does, yeah. For them to get our hands slapped on it.
we're just talking about when you get ready to build something there. Not to subdivide it, you could do that.
Right.
But we're not quite sure on, when it comes to building something, if you have to have the county's blessing or not. I mean, you could argue it both ways.
If it's in the general business district and he doesn't have to have a special use permit for it.
Yeah. Be no different than putting actually my building,
Now,
well,
then
it's
you
special
did,
use permit,
then you
now
did.
it's not, so.
Right.
Yeah, maybe no, like if you wanted to put a garage on your property and it was permitted, maybe. As long as it's in zoning,
As long as it's compliant with the zoning.
both in design and zoning.
Yeah, I think we did.
So, okay to subdivide or divide. And
Look over there, not here. He's looking down.
I think we should, I think the best thing we can do is confirm with the town attorney that that's allowed. That's what I do. Then then we'd have his support of the idea too,
okay,
which we can,
is it possible to do a conditional, well, I guess sign the site plan approval process on at this point, is it?
Not really, not till you've got it.
Yeah, we'd have to know how many divisions you were gonna do and have an actual plan. Right now, you're uncertain whether you're gonna have 3 or 4. We'd have to have something a little more concrete.
But do I need I don't need a site plan to divide the property.
No.
I can divide the properties, and then per individual property, I will need a site plan.
Yeah.
Just like any other property.
yeah, from looking in here, I don't see where we have anything that would restrict you from subdividing.
Okay.
But
When it
I'd
comes
like to reach out to Lance and have him confirm that for you,
Okay.
you know?
Is
But
that how do we?
I don't think that's
gotta
gotta come back to here, though. I don't think that's gotta come back here next month. That would just be a conversation with Lance
Just
and
a
then an answer to these guys to tell them
That's what I was thinking.
yay or nay. Or
Call
they
him
could-
up, call him up.
So who would I coordinate to get that?
You want me to call him? I don't mind calling him.
Yeah.
See if we can.
He's getting paid, right? If he answers.
He's probably watching.
I doubt it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Lee, can you tell if anybody's watching us tonight? Or on the
Yes.
phone?
Are all the, meetings recorded and broadcast out? Is that through the town website?
YouTube.
Oh, really?
No, you can get to it from the town website.
Oh, it does have a link on it?
Right, streaming.
Take you to, gotcha.
We're streaming now, so I don't get the comments, I don't get anything up there, so.
It's not to be used against us, though, with your attorney.
No answer. So is there anything else in here that, in our zoning that, well, you probably read through this too, right? Nothing else that would lead you to do any other problems, right? I remember having a long-winded discussion about whether we should create subdivision zoning. We don't have it. Or never. Well, I don't think we got any control over you dividing it.
And then, again, once each parcel individually, that's when you come with a site plan and do the normal planning board, so.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Right, well, you come here.
As long, because it is within its own.
Everything's compliant.
Gotcha.
There was something done on the subdivision, but it went directly to Shelley or to, for the tax parcels to be divided. But the county was going to inform us if a parcel was made that, but it wasn't gonna come to the planning board because it wasn't part of, we didn't write it into anything for here. There was just a flag note made. If one is created, then we all need to be.
Yeah, so you guys can come out and assess.
Right,
Get taxed.
right. I think that was, Barry was informed on that, and I believe the county clerk information went there too.
If they would notify the town board every time.
Not the planning board, it just, information has to come back to the town that somebody's dividing a piece of land to make.
Shelley wanted that,
Yeah,
because she wanted to make sure they conform. She was trying to stop these flag lots.
Would you oppose if we reached out to the town attorney in a couple of days and got back in?
I mean, if that would put everyone's mind at peace, yeah, I mean, that's why we're here.
Yeah.
To do that.
Yeah.
Full purpose.
I don't, he's pretty good about answering, it wouldn't be a day or two. He has
Oh,
an
by
answer.
week 10.
Yeah.
Get a definite answer from them.
When I mentioned flag lots, it was a driveway flag lot. You know, where you didn't have the correct footage
Right.
out front.
There's actually, I found something in zoning about a flag lot.
Yeah.
Business, you could have like 100, I think it was 150 minimum, but it still needed the requirement as far as total acreage.
I don't
It
know
was
where
a
we
goofy
ended up
thing.
with it.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't even wanna go there,
Yeah.
each thing is gonna have the minimum.
We do, yeah, we
Not
do
even
have,
gonna go into that, so.
it's in the regulations about how a flag lot should be formed.
So explain to me, they're not going to be attached buildings, right? Or they are
No.
separate buildings that you're putting on?
Correct.
Okay, so is there going to have to be a setback between buildings?
Well,
That's
between,
regular law.
Just standard,
Okay,
code compliant.
okay, and that's gonna work with what you have here, the drawings? That still is gonna give you,
Correct.
okay,
Most of that boils down to a safety perspective. So, fire's a big concern in a storage unit complex to make sure. Because typically there's stuff on pieces of property that are undesirable. That's typically what happens. So, the big concern is to make sure that those buildings can be serviced.
well, what I'm getting at is it doesn't show any spacing in here, and that's you're using every bit of your frontage here, so I just was wondering if, because it's saying, what, 20, there has to be spacing on the sides, right?
Just the side lots of that. Is what you're referring to?
Yes,
Yeah, no, that would all.
Okay. so when you do your site plan review, if you could make it more, not showing it to be connected, this looks like it's connected on this one.
You would
Those
have
aren't
to do
buildings, those are lots.
Okay, those are the lots, and
Those
those
are
are the
lot lines.
buildings.
Those
Okay.
are buildings on its own parcel.
Actually, we wouldn't even be looking at it again.
I know, but when he goes to do it, is what I'm saying. We look at the same.
Shelley would be the one.
Yes, I know.
Yeah, you would have to do another drawing, right? Showing you on the building.
Yeah, cause there'd be new lot lines,
So
so,
get your permit.
correct. But wouldn't need a site plan review for a building permit, correct? As long as it's
Just whatever
conforming.
needed, whatever Shelley needs.
Yeah, okay.
We just do a site plan review.
Yeah, just the normal process.
That, that drawing right there represents the whole 20-some acres.
It doesn't have the newly defined line on it. I just wanted to show you an example of what the building could look like.
Cause that's got a retention pond or detention one too.
Yeah, there's a ditch line that runs from that retention line north. This is the main drainage line for that parcel. Everything from east and west comes down in front of the highway, not at the highway, in front of it, and then down that line and heads north. So that's how we'll maintain basically that front half of the property. I don't have a topo, but there's a little bit of a hill with a 2.5-foot grade. And that all the property drains through that ditch line. So it's controlling the whole front of the property drain. That was another reason where that one west line for the storage units is where it's at, because that is where that ditch line is, which would be unfavorable. Well,
That could, correct me if I'm wrong, but that pond could screw up the parcel to the west of the storage. If you give me
potentially,
that.
if I needed it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fine. Hopefully the ditch line would take care of it.
Alright, well, I can reach out to Lance and make sure he's in agreement with everything we talked about.
And then just a phone call is okay with everybody, correct? Okay.
I mean, this is informal anyways.
Yeah, right.
Let's move on.
Alright,
Thank you
Good.
very much.
yeah,
Sure.
thanks you guys. So we got any,
Very good, you're welcome. Have a good evening.
My daughter took mine. I'll never see that kind again.
the next thing is the communication, which is, county planning board. We had the county planning board, we had a referral on there.
Wait a minute, Tom. What's it got?
Oh.
We did get an email about tiny homes from Sean.
Yep, we didn't have that on the agenda, but
Oh, okay, fine.
we can talk about it if you want.
Wait, where did we end up with that?
Last time we talked about it, I think.
We had some information on it, and we talked, and that was about it. He said, when the need comes, we'll worry about it.
Things that the tiny home met the requirements and everything.
Yeah,
Okay, and then we'll, that's fine.
Well, the square footage, we got a minimum, I think, of 900 square feet.
we do.
Yeah.
We did-
We talked about reducing it to 400.
Well, I don't know how far down we went, but we made, if everything else complied, then sewer, septic,
Lot size.
yeah, lot size was,
There's an email that he sent that's got the county had that housing study done.
yes.
I don't think, does size of house have anything to do with changing lot size? I'm not talking, not combining those. Talking about making smaller lots because of that.
Well, we pretty much got AR district, well, let's go back to let's put that on there, and we'll talk about that with small houses. But on the county planning board, we don't have the minutes from the meeting, so they had sound problems with the county planning board. I couldn't hear half of it, and I just assumed wait until the next meeting to go over that, if everybody's okay with it.
Yep.
Sounds good.
But our referral was approved. That was the one for the, solar farm. As long as we got in touch with the ordinance, emergency management, director about the road widths, and he wrote a letter on September 10th to the planning board and the zoning board with requirements. Which I just got here. Concerns are outlined with the following recommendations. Fence perimeter reduces the points of ingress and egress for fighting the fire at one of the structures or in the event of a grass fire. This could potentially make it difficult to extinguish a fire or worse cause a firefighter entrapment within the fenced area. They are requesting an installation of personnel gates every 300 feet around the perimeter. Due to the proximity to the fence and solar panels, we have concerns over the ability of a brush fire apparatus being able to turn at all corners. Request enough distance at all corners for a 4x4 crew cab dual wheel pickup to turn unimpeded. In order to reduce the likelihood of severity of a brush fire, request all brush grass within the fenced perimeter be maintained at a height of not to exceed 10 inches. Due to heavy weight of fire apparatus, there are concerns over the ability of the gravel road to support the load. Request all driveway access to be able to support 70,000 pounds at a minimum year round. A no box must be located at the main gate with any required keys to ensure quick access to the site. That's from Dale Banker. So he wrote this to the planning board and the zoning board, so we should probably refer it to the town board. This is something they're gonna.
Well, they have a copy,
They do.
or at least Sean does.
Okay.
And I could send that out if you wanted me to.
Okay. Yeah, could you? To everybody. Word. So that's. I asked for the meeting minutes from the county planning board, they didn't give it to me yet, so we'll have that in the next meeting. And then Sean sent an email about the small houses, if you want to go over that quick. And we got, we have, pretty much all AR district now in town. And the minimum lot size is, 40,000 square feet. I know we got something in here about the square foot of the building too, right?
I'm sorry, what are you looking for?
The minimum square footage of,
Well, the,
single family structure.
350-38.
the structure is considered a tiny house when it's less than 400 square feet.
900
So we
square.
aren't even, we're at 900
Or
now.
900 square feet.
Would you want something smaller than 400 square feet?
The housing study, the housing study they did, that they hired, the consultant to do is, it says that, they're advising local officials to consider some zoning changes to allow for single-family housing on smaller lot sizes. And also encourage more high-density development, such as townhouses and condominiums.
That's related to tiny houses, or are they, is that two separate issues?
It's a similar issue because the housing study was done, and the result of it was that, well, Sean's email to the, which I think everybody got.
Yeah,
Sean's suggesting that we need to address the needs of the lower income families in the town. And we have a number of them living on Social Security benefits only.
that was taken from the article in the Hub.
Yep. The
So
basis of
not
that,
exactly his words.
no, just something we should consider, that we may want to consider changing, because the population is increasing in our county. And the median household income is making it difficult for people to afford that size home. That's what the study says. I don't believe it.
I think somebody's looking for a place for his sister.
I can't see anybody downsizing it, and any senior downsizing to 400 square feet.
But maybe less than 900.
Maybe less than 900, but 400?
Yeah.
That's considered a tiny house then.
Yeah, if it's less than 900 feet.
Well, if it's a dwelling that is 400 square feet or less in floor area is considered a tiny house.
Okay, but we don't address anything under 900 square feet. So where do you put the?
Between 9 and 4. Can you call it?
Small,
Yes, it's small.
not tiny, smaller.
I think the way we left it before, there wasn't anybody scratching at the door for one of these.
No, but they were hoping that we would be the forerunners for doing tiny house.
Well-
Clarendon would be the forerunner, or some other town.
The only thing that comes to my mind is, like, you're talking to some of your citizens, somebody wants, they're gonna be on a ranch, they're gonna want one floor, maybe not even a basement, just a slab, and they wanna put something up.
Right.
Behind their kid's place or something,
Well,
is what I'm thinking.
we have problems
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah, I know, but that's what I'm
If
thinking.
they got an acre, and they wanna put a slab, and they wanna put a ranch, how small, I can see it being less than 900. I can't see it being less than 400, that's crazy.
But didn't we leave it that as long as they met the requirements of what the town set, they can build any,
No.
any size home that they
We
want?
have a 900.
Yeah, we have a 900.
Well, could you get a variance on the square footage?
Hard to turn it down.
Yeah. As long as it meets the minimum for health and safety.
Yeah.
How far do you wanna look
Stretching
into it?
it.
You want, a couple of people with 5, 6 kids in there on our school, burden our school? I mean, that could happen.
It did happen when Harry Parker was living on Gillette Road and he had a little shack there. We had 4 kids coming out on the school bus. It was just a shack. Yep.
I remember the shack just down 98, on the way down.
Yeah.
Couldn't believe people lived in that, the closet.
Yeah. Well, the other portion of this is 2 structures on one property.
Yeah.
It could be over 900 square feet on the second one, you still can't have it in Barry.
The population loss in our county is down 8.7% in the last 20 years.
What are we trying to attract? What are we trying to cater to here? We got empty old houses all over the place. So we're gonna let them build a little house on a half a lot? I don't see the point. Just because people think tiny houses are neat. My opinion.
Yeah.
Well, they build these tiny little houses on trailers so that they can take them around wherever they wanna go. If you look at the DIY network,
Yeah.
that's what they're doing,
Just don't park it any place longer than
30 days.
30 days.
They say the decline in household sizes could result in less demand for larger single-family houses in the future.
The Amish are selling those tiny homes.
Those are sheds.
Yeah.
What
16
you're
by
talking about,
20 cottage.
It's like a hunting
some of
cabin
those
with a
sheds are
bathroom.
more than
Yeah.
400 square feet. It could be a home. That's hard to believe.
The report says that half of all the renters, 47% are living in housing that is unaffordable, and over 18% of the renters are spending more than 50% of their income on housing.
Yeah, living on Social Security only. That's what it is, right? I mean,
Not
you cut
necessarily.
half your income to go toward your housing, you'd have to be living on Social Security only.
At that age, you should have your own house and it should be paid for. Jeez. This 400 square feet for the tiny house is floor space excluding lofts, so you still could have a loft up above to get more space. So it wouldn't be only the 400, but
I mean, you could have, in our town, you could have 450 first floor and 450 second.
no, on the tiny houses, they're saying.
No, 450 first floor and 450 second makes 900 square feet.
There you go.
So you could do it.
Yeah.
You don't need any the reason.
Can't be
It
on
fits.
Can't be on 3 foot feet.
Oh, man.
Well, do we want to talk any more about possible changes to the zoning, or does everybody want to read this article and then discuss it next week?
Let's in the meantime ask Sean where he really wants us to go with it too. I mean, he's the only one that's requested us to look at it.
Well,
We didn't get a direct order from the town board, correct?
Correct.
Just from him.
We let Luann
We
Tierney
just
look
got
at
it.
it too, and she thought it was a
Yeah.
good idea. There's a huge demand, she goes. In Barry, I don't think so, but
Like you say, there's so many houses that are not even being used that are abandoned now. How much less expensive do you want to get? I mean, I don't know how cheap this.
Well, a lot of these houses you can't even buy, I mean, bank on them, I don't know what their plan is.
and there's so many people that need houses too, you know? I don't get it. You'll let it sit there and go to ruin and
some of them gonna take an act of Congress to bring them back to code also. I see the Galasano place is for sale.
What did you,
225. And it's gutted. It's been gutted for 60 years. When I was a kid, it was gutted.
never, well, because of the land with it too, right?
It's 50 acres.
Yeah.
And supposedly the Dawson place sold. And the woman that bought it, the price was $249.9, and she told my wife that she won the bidding war, or whatever you wanna call
Pete Smith's?
it. So what did it bring?
Was it Pete Smith's?
Yes,
Oh. Yeah. Took a while to sell that one, I'm surprised.
not really. What, the open house was only 3 weeks ago.
I know, but they've been going bam, bam, bam. I mean, their sign is up one day and the next day it's a sale pending on it.
I'd say it was pretty quick. On Culver Road, where Charlie Dawson used to live.
I don't know why you have your. Means nothing to me. You're not to be there
It would
40 years,
be,
it'd be
let me
something.
see,
How far?
1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth house on the west side of the road, going south. Got a nice barn behind the house.
Oh, after
Yeah.
after the bend, or when it goes south of.
No,
Before
it's
the
straight,
bend.
it's before the bend.
Oh,
If you go through the dip and you come up a rise,
There's that one and then there's another right next to it,
a
real
little,
close.
yeah, like a trailer.
Yeah.
I guess it's a trailer.
I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
just need a motion for adjournment, unless there's other.
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I second.
So I'm gonna reach out to Lance and just clarify that.
Yeah, he seems kinda urgent,
Yeah.
getting an answer. How many of those storage units do we need, does anybody need?
Yeah,
Townhouse, I think they're adding another row.
They're adding another,
Yeah.
and I think Dave Bentley's moved a lot of his stuff, and is gonna add on down there, put some more in. Just east of the ones that are there.
Well, the one
does
going
Dave own it?
east,
Well, east,
Clarendon and that, they're gonna add on to that, I think.
You know, people have a lot of stuff.
Or
Too
he's-
much for thinking everyone's downsizing.
Well, they are.
They are, they're moving it slow.
Yeah. There you go.
Selling their homes, downsizing.
he told me he's still, well, maybe sold, but
Yeah.
those are his babies. That's his income.
I came back from school, that was the big thing.
Yeah.
Is the students
Actually, I
store their
think he
stuff.
told me he still owns that building.
I came home and I saw.
And rents it too.
There's some animosity there, they don't get along,
I
like
talked to Dave Bentley.
Laura and Dave.
I said, Dave, what would I need to do?
And Doug,
Ah,
Doug
yeah,
quit.
talk me out of
Yeah,
it.
2 years ago, Doug quit, right after.
So about 2 years later, you put up those.
There was a few other guys there.
You lost out, George.
It's out with the old and then with the new, I mean, young person and less